Hi everybody, this is chapter 32. It's really getting exciting. I hope you find it just as exciting as I do. At first I'm sure it's an accident or a joke. It is neither of these things. The lights suddenly go out and the room is plunged in darkness. There's a kind of fight happening near the door and I hear reactions, Avocar reactions voice, loud and defensive. You need to get out of here. No, you're not welcome. No, no, get out, get out. Before I call her, and I can't hear what happens next. The room, which moments previous was alight with the happy, joyous shouts of singing teenagers, is now full of horrified screams. I grab Fiona next to me. "Where's Rue?" I yell. "What's happening?" A crowd of people heave backwards, crushing me and Fiona against the wall. I hear her screaming at the boy, falls backwards. On top of her, I crouch to pick her up and am almost trampled in the process. I haul her to the side of the stage and manage to stand up on top of it, trying to see what's happening. A group of people have wrestled their way into the gig. Most of them are about our age or a few years older. The biggest men are shoving people backwards and screaming in their faces. A few others are carrying things. I get on my tiptoes to try to see. Carrying buckets. What? No, no one is actually punching or hitting, just pushing. There's about 20 of them, and the closer I look, the more I see how familiar they are. Fiona recovered from an initial shock. It is standing on top of the stage with me. "Maeve," she says, pointing, "look." I follow her finger and see a tall blonde man in the soft grey sweatshirt and navy pea coat standing with his back to the wall. "Isn't that the guy from the cafe?" "And is it?" "It's Aaron. Aaron has brought the children of Bridget here." That's the other weird person. Okay, he's like a cult leader. He brought the children of Bridget here. That's the cult. That's what it's called. To Rue's gig, to a queer charity cabaret night. He's not moving. He's not even speaking. Just standing, watching the fury impassively. For a moment our eyes meet, and I'm sure that Aaron can see me for who I am, the other sensitive, but his eyes rove on as he keeps scanning the room. "Where's Rue?" I shout over the din. "Can you see him?" A drag queen has taken her shoe off and is clubbing someone with it. The pink-haired lead guitarist from Small Private Ceremony is shoving a COB member back, yelling at him to hit her with his best shot. The COB kids aren't doing anything except pushing and shouting the worst kind of words you can think of. Words that were probably thrown to Jo and Sarah last week, because her sister and her friend were shouted at by the COB kids when they were in the Centra queuing for a hot chicken roll. And then somebody gets grabbed, a 14-year-old boy who I had noticed on the way in for having better makeup than Jenna, sister, is held back at the back of his head and dragged to the doorway where people with the buckets are waiting. "What's in the buckets?" Fiona yells. "What are they doing?" My mind goes to the worst. Piss, blood, animal poo? What on earth could they be possibly have in there. The boy's face is pushed into the bucket, held there, and a few seconds later is pulled out again, dripping wet. Water, I think. It's water. His mascara is running down his face. His foundation is an orange mess. He is pushed back into the crowd, shell-shocked and crying. They are taking his makeup off. They are trying to take everyone's makeup off. As the realization sparks and carries, the room goes wild. Punches are thrown. Blood starts spattering. The cabaret crowd start to fight. And that's when I see him. Rue, his mouth coated in blood, his dress torn at the shoulder. He is trying to get to Aaron, but he's being stopped by a boy I recognize as Cormac, the boy from the COP meeting, who played the GAA and shaved his legs. Rue pushes past Cormac and manages to square up to Aaron, who seems calmly surprised that Rue wants to speak to him. He gives a "Who? Me?" look of indifference, as if Rue has wrongly recognized an old neighbor. I stare at Aaron's face and realize that this is actually what he wants. He wants the cabaret crowd to descend into violence. He wants them to throw punches, to stab with stiletto heels, to go out of control. He wants to be able to maintain that all Cobb did was show up with a few buckets of water. He intentionally brought only 20 of so-called Christian teenagers with him against a crowd of 100. He wants it to look like an uneven fight. He wants to lose. This, I realize, is a PR exercise, and Rue, screaming and shaking Aaron by the shoulders, is doing exactly what Aaron wants him to do. Gay mob descends on Christian charity group. Art collective goes wild. Life's a drag. How the city drags scene turned violent. I imagine the pieces in the paper, the segments on the radio, Aaron giving perfect sound bites to the press, and the endless talk panels. Yes, of course, the cops shouldn't have been there in the first place, but I think we can agree it's all gone a bit too far. The crowd is too thick for me to be able to get over Fiona, who seems to have realized the intention to all this at the same time as I have, is recording it on her phone. These guys have shown up and started attacking people. She shouts over the din. She is on Instagram Live. They are acting queer people. Above the wall where Aaron stands, there is a framed photo of the cypress the year it first opened, and then I see her. The housekeeper is standing by Aaron, river water trailing off her. Her dress is wet and plastered to her body. By now it seems normal for her to make her appearance when an imbalance occurs in the world. Something else must rise to meet it. Aaron came to Kilbag because he spied a hole in the fabric. The hole of the housekeeper cut for him. So the housekeeper, that magical being or energy that is called the housekeeper, has cut a porthole for Aaron to come in and to try. This is going to be the war between her, Maeve, and Aaron. So this is the exciting bit. I hope you can still follow it. But whose side is she on? Was she here to support Aaron or to support me? I hold on to my bracelet, my sailor's knot. I keep my eyes on the frame. I try to remember the spell and imagine myself tying a lasso around the picture frame and bringing it forward. I picture it smashing on Aaron's head. I breathe. I start to chant. Tip the frame, tip the scales. Where Rue wins, Aaron will fail. I keep it up over and over, faster and faster. Rue keeps shouting at Aaron. Aaron keeps his shit-eating grin up. Another kid gets grabbed and thrown into some water. Tip the frame, tip the scales. Where Rue wins, Aaron fails. Maeve, what are you doing? The frame is wobbling, it's moving. Fi, give me your hand. Well, now I'm getting goosebumps. What? I said, give me your frickin' hand. She gives her hand and I slide it into the sailor's knot bracelet. The white satin of my dressing gown cord is netting us together in a single spell. Connecting, really. Just hold it and watch the frame. Fiona above his head. You are a sensitive, Maeve. You can do this. I start to chant again, and soon Fiona starts too. We do it together. Urgent, frantic. Tip the frame, tip the scales. Where Rue wins, Aaron fails. And then it happens. The wooden frame falls heavily on Aaron's, glass shattering around his shoulders, a crimson wound opening at his temple. For a moment everything in the room stops and people flinch at the sound of the instinctively move away from the glass. The housekeeper, like a speck of dirt in the corner of your eye, is gone with a blink. Still tethered by the tailor's knot, Fiona and I dive into the crowd, fighting to get to Rue. Jesus Christ, Maeve. I hear her call. Jesus Christ. I clamp my free hand on Rue. He turns his eyes wide and panicked like an animal. Are you okay? We both say in the same time. At the moment, the Guardia, that's the Irish police, fly through the door. I recognize Griffin immediately. Maeve, she says. Then, that's one of the police officers that interviewed her right at the beginning of the story of the book. She says, then her eyes fly to Rue. Rory, I can see her making a million tiny judgments, levying 1,000 questions and answers in her brain. Get out of here, she says. Now, neither of you can afford to be taken home in a squad car. Your parents have been through enough. I nod and barge past her, Fiona in tow. We can't just go, Rue says. We can't just leave them. We have to. Do you really want your parents to see a squad car outside their house tonight with you dressed like this? He nods. Fine. And we fall down the stairs into the street and to the sounds of sirens outside. Wow, that is magic. That is brain-boggling and blowing. I'm going to go on to 33, so you might even have 2 today. Take care, and thank you for listening.